Good morning. Okay. So I think there couldn't have been a more diverse and varied panel here. And I'm sure there was a quick round of introduction. But we have retailers, we have new retailers, we have people who handle an iconic brand like Colgate, we have Nestle, and we have Cargill, which is really doing a lot of innovation using commodity as a base. So I think we couldn't have had a better panel to discuss tier 2. We thought we'll straight away go into the topic, but before that, I want to do a quick poll so that we can moderate the topic accordingly. The first question was asked to me by the organizer, how many of you are having a hangover? No, don't tell me, only one hand going up, poor chap. None of you? Okay, good. How many of you are going to know that Salman Khan's movie is releasing today? Okay, good. How many of you stayed in tier 2 towns? Wow. Okay. So, how many of you believe that tier 2 towns have huge opportunity to grow? Okay. Okay. So, I want to be the devil's advocate and say, may not be. And I'll just quote, as I said, we're not keeping a presentation here because it will absorb a lot of time. We want to have as much time for you to really interact with the panel. But quick statistics, I was just checking yesterday, 8 cities. Mumbai, Calcutta, Delhi, Chennai, Ahmedabad, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore. I think they roughly account to not more than 8 to 9% of the Indian population, but they account for 27% of food trade, and it accounts for 62% of modern trade. Yeah, so just 8% formed by 9% of population formed by 8 cities, and 60% of modern trade, 27% of general trade. I presume the figures kind of gel with each one of you. So I want to take the devil's advocate saying, a Bhilwara can never beat a Bangalore. A Madurai can never beat a Mumbai. A Kolhapur can never beat a Kolkata. I mean, I want to say that maybe it'll never happen, at least not in this generation of retail and this generation of consumption. We'll have to wait for maybe a generation or two. So how many of you agree with me that a Bhilwara will never become a Bangalore? 4 or 5. So rest of you all believe in it, yeah? So I think what we'll really do is go back and check. And as I said, let's say this is the panel which is going to make us and make it happen or make it not happen. To say, will really a Bhilwara become a Bangalore? Will really Kolkata, will really a Kolhapur become a Kolkata? I have my doubts. Some of you have my doubts. It's great to see a lot of people supporting the topic. But we'll go straight to the speakers here and really hear what they have to say. So I want to start with you, Azim. I think, really there's a reason to start, I think, the kind of product categories you handle. I remember the walk across the atta market and the oil mandi, and I think I remember they're thriving with sales, especially in the tier 2 towns. However, there's been one question, and post that I've been exposed to some bit of retail there in these cities. Is there any scope for anyone to organize trade in such cities? And you can, if you can get your experience on the categories you handle, will be great. That's one. And second is really, is price the only lever? Because whenever I go to the markets, I feel the only thing which is being spoken is availability and price. And as I said, the task for each one of us to really say that, can Kolhapur ever dream to become a Kolkata? I mean, can, in terms of size of consumption, in terms of energy, etc., etc. And that's the thought. So if you also have to add a couple of points on whether you agree with this line that will Kolhapur ever beat a Kolkata, I think feel free to kind of start there and then come back to saying, is price the only lever in these markets?
No, so let me start from your last point that can Kolhapur ever be a Kolkata or a Bhilwara can ever be a Bangalore? I think a lot of people actually underestimate the potential of small towns to start with. There is probably already a Bangalore and a Bhilwara right now today sitting. So that's the low-hanging fruit. And a lot of companies don't even venture out and capture that potential. There is that SECA consumer between a Bhilwara and Bangalore who's no different. She's exposed to the same media, same communication, same brand aspirations. Probably she is less fussy because today I see when I stand in a modern trade store in a Bangalore, the consumer is coming and evaluating the value she's getting on the shelf. She's picking up stuff, putting it in the trolley, walking 3 steps, changing the product. Because she is realizing, no, 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 what I picked up a minute back is not more value than what I'm seeing now. But a consumer in Bhilwara is probably ordering on the phone, or she's sending her housemaid to pick up a product, and she's least concerned what the price is. She just wants the brand and the product. So I think that the low-hanging fruit is that this consumer who's willing to trade up for better value and not just trade down, which is the classical perception of a small town, is the first low-hanging fruit, which I think all of us should look at before we can even talk to the masses in Bhilwara. So that's the starting point, yeah.
Sure. So if I have to really elaborate on your point, you're actually giving a thumbs up to the consumer in Bhilwara, whose price, of course, is hygiene in a country like ours. But you're saying she's willing to go beyond price and really look at either saying, get me the product.
That's what our experience has been in our commodity space. Wherever we have packed the commodity
sure.
and offered her convenience and hygiene,
sure.
And given her uninterrupted access,
yeah.
it's worked for us.
Yeah. I'll reserve a question for you when you come to the traditional trade when Manish talks about his point of view. Yeah. But Amit, I really want to move to you, and I think we have the image of the consumer which Azim has painted is quite different. I came across a product from your stable, visibly white. It's almost promising the fairness in teeth, yeah? And got me thinking, saying, how will various markets react to a product like that? And then we have at the other end, which are functionally rich toothpaste, the enriched toothpaste of Sensodyne, Pro-Sensitive, etc., etc. Now, does the consumer really in tier 2 towns, in the Bhilwara and in the Kolhapur, really adapt to such? Or they're really waiting for a trickle down, saying, "Pehle shehron mein hone dijiye, then the cousins will come over and then we'll try and learn." And I'm using the toothpaste example as an indicative example. Maybe it could be the juices, maybe it could be dairy, it could be whatever. Do you really believe that there's potential for the consumer to experiment?
Yeah, I'll just bring in a manufacturer's perspective, how we look at this opportunity. And the way we look at it is, we look at it in a 3-dimensional way. The first is penetration, how many people are using it and how many more people we can start getting them to use targeted product. The second one is consumption, which is people who are using it, how we can get them to use more or more often. And the third one is premiumization, essentially moving them up the value chain. So this opportunity in the 3 dimensions exists definitely in tier 2 towns. And this, I believe, is a factor of at what level the category or the brand is. If it is a highly penetrated category, not too premium, then the opportunity lies in consumption and premiumization, getting them move up the value ladder. Coming to the question on visible white, which is a premium product and definitely promises the white tooth within a week's time, and the proposition calls for a premium pricing itself. As what was being just now talked about was that the shopper or the consumer exists there. While the proposition, if the proposition is compelling, promotion can be a leverage to initially get the trial, etc. But if the proposition is compelling, shopper will take it. However, the mix of the profile of shopper or consumer, if it is maybe a Bhilwara may not have too many of SEC A or Bs, but people who exist there definitely have we have opportunity to tap them. Considering the large base of population, while the percentage conversions may be looking small, but when you look at the absolutes, that becomes a sizable opportunity.
Okay, so 2 thumbs up so far. A question to the audience here. Can you tell me any product which you believe will not have traction in tier 2 towns or tier 3 towns? Any product? Or which will have very little traction? Anyone can. Any product which you think will not have a traction in tier 2 or tier 3 towns? Visibly white toothpaste. Do you believe it can get similar traction in a tier 2 town? Any product which you think, or you believe every product can go into a tier 2 town? So there you are. I think the whole gang believes that all the products can go. So, but I have a question, and I was hoping some of them really mention a product. Chadaji, the question is to you. And Chadaji is a veteran in the dairy industry, Nestle. So my belief is at times dairy could be a category, which especially the value-added dairy, when you get into the cheeses and the butters and whatever, will the tier 2 towns display enthusiasm for you as a marketeer? That's one. And second is, aren't there supply chain issues? Imagine reaching something in a refrigerated truck right to Bhilwara every day. And how are we going to really make it happen as a country? So those are the two specific questions. But before that, you can also talk about what you think whether Kolhapur can actually become a Kolkata.
Good one. I'm actually struggling where to begin from. So let me rewind before I get to the supply chain stuff. I think mass media has played a big role. And today, the exposure to anybody, what we call rural or the tier 2 or tier 3 towns, is really huge. This is actually setting in a lot of consumer aspirations. So if you were to get dairy, and I look at it a little more closely within our own portfolio, we have the chilled dairy. So you have the yogurts, you have the flavored yogurts. There is a lot of aspiration of these guys, the consumers in these towns also, to consume them. But there are questions as to why it's not available. The aspirations now have become very high. Whether it's dairy or it's automobiles, anyone, the aspirations are very high. I remember about 3 or 4 years back, in one day, more than 100 Mercs were booked in Nagpur, and it became a top line. So aspirations are there. The issue that we have is how do we unleash this potential which lies there? How is it that we are able to satisfy the aspirations of these consumers? And like all of you raise your hand saying that there's a huge potential available there. I think the key element here is the supply chain and the supply chain issues that we have here, the infrastructure. The infrastructure is not really geared up. And dairy, moving from fresh dairy into processed food, again, there is a potential, but how do you get it there? Now, it's this logistics which makes a world of difference. For a minute, if I digress a little to get things into perspective, and I take, and excuse me, taking the typical example coming to my mind is Vishal Megamart. If you look at Vishal Megamart, these guys specialize into getting into the cheap apparels, but getting the kind of style to the second-rung towns, third-rung towns. They develop their own logistics. They got their own trucks in place. They got their warehouses in place. Once they had something on the basis of which they could move, they started moving our products as well along with. Yes, ref trucks were not there, so therefore the chill did not go. But the other portfolio started moving there. So essentially, I think the biggest challenge that we have in India today and for unleashing this opportunity which lies is in the supply chain sector. If you look at it from the FDI point of view, which has always been talked yes and no, or what it is, some states will, some states will not. The fact of the matter that they're saying that you got to put in this 100 million in back store or the infrastructure, I think that is something which is actually required today, personal opinion, is required today to be able to drive the growth and the potential of the categories in which we actually deal in. Anything
no? So I think
I missed out?
So we'll come back to you, but I think you're giving me a lead for my next question to Manish. He said he gave an example of Vishal Megamart, and I think if you really, the figures which I quoted, there's only 40% of modern trade for 92% of Indian population. I mean, that's the way the numbers would look. And I'm sure in that 42% there's Big Bazaar, there's Vishal, there's More, there is Sahara, there's all those people, but there's only so much. So my question to you really is, should we wait, and I think that can be an endless wait, as I said, it surely not be this generation. Should we wait for modern trade to really organize? Should we wait for many more Vishals to come? Or is there some other way to really look at it? I mean, is there a way one can really play the footprint strategy? One can really look at sizing of stores in terms of retail penetration to really explode this consumption. I think what I heard from Azim and Amit is really consumption exists. Chadaji gives a thumbs up saying supply chain is an issue. I'm sure for you, Chadaji, supply chain will become easier if we have many more people, many more Vishals for you. In
a way, Vishal, even ABRL for that matter,
yeah.
Especially in the AP.
Sure.
The number of towns that they've actually penetrated into is giving us that opportunity. And they have the refer vehicles as well. So therefore, we benefit along with. So it's a hand in glove
sure.
trying to encash on the opportunity that exists.
Sure. So really the question to you is, what should be the game for footprints, developing stores? Is there a certain learning which you would like to share in terms of unlocking this potential?
Thanks, Sadashiv. It's an excellent question, and I'm firstly been proud to be a part of this panel. Let me just give you a little brief what Sahara Q is and Kara Q Shop is all about. Nestle's and Colgate's, and you all are pretty veteran in the field, and we are the new entrants, and we are getting a forceful entry in the market. Sahara Q Shop makes a completely private label product, be it food, be it electronics, be it home care, personal care, and so on. We have a series of products. Tier 2 is a very important for Sahara from the beginning. For us, Tier 2 is the people who we wanted to cater to. Very interestingly, I give you a different example of what Tier 2 is all about in India. It's like calling somebody a middle class, you know. All of us sitting here, and if I can call anybody a high class, would people agree? Are you high class? Okay, if I address you as a middle class people, would you appreciate?
Most of the nods were there.
So you appreciate if I call you, you are a very middle class person. People actually have an aspiration to get to a different class today. Sahara is not looking at a low-hanging fruit in a middle-class cities or a two-tier cities. A very different example which I draw about the movies. Perhaps when the old movies like Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam and those kind of movies came, it always, the first print used to run in a metros, and then those prints used to go and make money in the tier 2 cities. But all of you who are sitting here, would you like to see a Salman Khan movie first day, first show? Would you like to? And how do you think it is possible today? It's an aspiration of people. Nobody wants to use an outdated product, outdated technology, and outdated recipes that has been used by West and used in India, or now it is used by metros and then used by the tier 2 cities. So today, the human psychology is such that you wanted to use the latest technology because media is bringing all the information. You wanted to get the best education, and you wanted to use the best of the product. Now, how do you cash it? Chadaji said, okay, supply chain is an issue. But I say, providing a tier 2 city with a complete assortment of a product is the key. In Sahara, what we're trying to do, bringing the right products, which is today available in all the metros, unallocated products, which an aspiration for a tier 2 city guy who are hell-bent to buy what is available to local baniya. Local baniya is anyway, it's a portal also, I'm not wanting to do that one. Local baniya is a local kirana shop or pop and mom store which is available. Today Sahara Q is doing what? A service to a tier 2 cities, bringing the world-class assortment, a world-class product, which has oil, has all the nutraceuticals, vitamins, best quality atta, sharbati products, sharbati atta products, each and every product in one single store available to a retailer, which is our franchisee, or to our own stores which are available. Now coming to your point, a big format store is basically a good store for a metro, because in metro, people have a mode of communication, mode of transportation. They can go to a store, they can go to a mall, they can have recreation in the mall, and at the same time they can buy their groceries. But this may not be the true for the tier 2, tier 3 cities. People will not like to go to a mall to buy their groceries. they still wanted to go with the conventional small type shops and buy their groceries. And that is making tier 2 cities slightly different from the metro lifestyle. If I'm right, what I say. I differentiate India into 3 kind of categories. Metros definitely. Then I say KUTs. KUTs is the key urban towns, and RUOIs, rest of urban India. So KUTs or key urban towns are the towns which you say today are growing to so-called metros, or called mini metros, which definitely have a similar kind of aspiration, similar kind of education background, and almost the same line of per capita income growing in that matter, which can afford all kind of luxuries, all kind of basic amenities. Health is an issue, they want health, and food is directly connected to all these points. Food and entertainment is such a thing. Why I gave the example of cinema, today malls and cinemas are almost joined hand with each other. If you would like to see a latest Salman movie today, which is releasing in Bombay, so you definitely wanted to have the latest oil been launched by Cargill or by Sahara Q Shop, or something launched by Nestle, which is coming to your TV. So why not? That is the reason today the tier 2 cities are highly important. Now coming to the footfall point. We definitely as Sahara Q try to have minimized stores, so the profitability is not eroded onto paying a high rental for the retail. We try to provide a shop close to your vicinity and with the full of assortment, modern assortment, which caters to an individual need on locality to locality basis. And we feel that is the key for the growing two-tier cities. So I think if I have covered the points what you have done.
So Azim, I'll just ask my question which I reserved for you, and I knew Manish will bring this aspect up. So going back to the trade, and especially the trade where you belong to, the traditional trade is extremely strong.
Sorry?
The traditional trade, the bazaar, the mandi is extremely strong. What would you, if I've heard your advice right, saying don't go for a large store, size your store well, location prominence is not dyingly important. Yes, it is important, but not dyingly important. But put smaller stores. And then you have a very strong and buzzing bazaar which happens in categories like yours. What would your advice be? I mean, is there a challenge for modern trade the way you look at it?
Yeah, so both have to coexist because as I said earlier, the big challenge is not in trying to address the 20% of the creme de la creme in those towns, in the bhilwadas, and trying to take them on your side. The challenge is in how the 80% will now start accepting your so-called elitist packaged product that you've been selling in Bangalore so far. That population will continue to depend on the mandis for a long time. And that change will need to be sort of pushed by the organizations, by the sellers, by the manufacturers. So my first point is the modern trade and the mandis need to learn how to coexist with each other. And I think a tip for the modern trade guys is that don't compete, collaborate. Because you don't want to be the bad guy when you enter a bhilwada, right? You don't want the trade to gang up, to vendors to gang up and say, no, I'm seeing a channel conflict here. I sell to one big, large modern trade store, and they end up fighting with 300 small stores. And now I'm trying to work out my relationships again with those 300 small stores. The experience that the modern trade should offer to that consumer whom it's trying to sort of graduate to has to be based on experience of shopping, has to be based on the assortment and the range and the availability and the newness of the products rather than pricing. So keep the pricing to the mandis. Let the price-conscious consumer hang around there and take his best pick. But the modern trade needs to offer much more and much different level of an experience to the consumers. Yeah. Okay.
So I think you kept some masala ready by saying don't compete for modern trade, and we'll use that later if time permits. Twice Salman Khan already appeared on the panel discussion, so I think note kiya jaye. I'll move to the next question to you, Sumit, and before that I'll just share when Big Bazaar had done some work along with McKinsey on small towns, and they had come back and said Surat is going to be a large market, and then we met qualitatively some people, and some people from the tier 2 towns who came and shared their lifestyle with us. And one thing struck: there was a change of power happening, and the power was almost like this. Some of those people were saying, Ki, what are you guys fighting in Mumbai? In fact, one of our panelists was stuck up for 1 hour in the traffic and saying, "Kaun si ladai lad rahe ho? Every day you're trying to run, every day you're trying to, what is this? I'm very comfortable in my town." And that was a very important shift in mindset. I mean, all that we think are elements of small town is something which today, and because we are seeing a trend of reverse migration happening, the Kanpurs and the Lucknows again thriving, we see a bit of comfort and a bit of peace coming into the consumers there. And that's when I provoke my next question. I'm using the word provoke. If there's no time-starved consumers in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, and then you put up this large store, and some of us have put stores beyond 800 square feet. We ventured into 20,000, 25,000, the Vishal Mega Mart, the Big Bazaar, the Moors, etc. How do you keep engaging this customer? And the example which I was sharing with you in the lounge there, I think I've experienced this in towns like Nasik. The customer comes this week, then comes the next week and says, "Yehi kapda bechte ho kya tum log?" Because we can't change clothes every week. And they say, "Okay, this is all that you have." And that's possibly the best assortment we put there. It's the best food assortment we have there. So how do you keep engaging such a consumer who's not time-starved, who's going to come to your store maybe once a week, twice a week? How do you engage with such a customer?
Yeah. Okay. Before I venture on that one, my response to the question earlier you posed. Should Bhilwara be Bangalore? Yeah. Depends on what we are measuring. Are we measuring total size? If you're measuring total size, it will never be. Okay. Right? But if you're measuring metrics like consumer adaptability, money spent by each consumer in the store, sales density, which we all know as sales per square feet, if those are the matrices, then we're pretty much already there. I'll narrate to you one interesting story of this one city called Bhimavaram. It's in AP, upcountry AP. 50,000 to 60,000 households in that city. That's it. We have a store which is 2,800 square feet. That store competes with sales densities of the best in Hyderabad, as an example. Yeah? And that store, in many ways, is aspirational for that local consumer of Bhimavaram. So much has been a success that we've actually been pushed by the local community to think of launching a second store in that 50,000 pop town. Now, in that sense, and in many ways, I think we're already there. Only we need to size the opportunity right, and that's where I think his point in terms of sizing the store right comes very, very handy. That's the first point. Secondly, from an aspirational point of view, I'll just give you one example. Probably 10 years back or 12 years back, all the serials on the general entertainment channel were stories about the big cities. If you look at all channels today and all stories that are in the serials today, they are all about small towns. Because that's where the aspirational India lives rather. Thirdly, in my job, I interview a lot of people from management colleges. And today, almost, and I have done this for the last almost 3 years and I have kept records, so I can say that, more than 70% of the kids there are actually from tier 2, tier 3 towns who want to make it big. And their language, their want to do things better, bigger, is far more than a tier 1 town guy who says, "I'm already there, I know I will get there." So in terms of the aspirational value and what they want to consume and how they want to live is very, very different today. And hence, we don't need to sell it to them. We don't need to. We need to be present in the right format, in the right size. Now to your question specifically. If in a city like Nasik, let's say I put up a store, and I know from experience I will take, let's say, 8 or 10% share in that market. And let's say the kind of sales density that I will do will lead me to, let's say, in the apparel market, doing a business in a year of, let's say, 10 crores for hypothetically, right? if the total apparel market in the branded segment happens to be only 60 crores, then I'm destined for failure. I'm going to get that guy come back to me saying that you're not rotating your product fast enough. And hence, if you're sized right, there's an opportunity. And we've learned this the hard way. All of us have. Over the last 2-3 years, we've resized, we've changed, we've chopped, we've closed, all of us. And that, I think, for me, is an important point. Opportunity exists. The consumer is more than ready, both psychologically and with the money in the wallet. We just need to seize the opportunity with the right product for him.
Okay. I hope you didn't miss the smile. He said, "Tum dono ki lag gayi," you know, retailers. I think, yes, we learned the hard way. So I'll just summarize at this stage the 5 key messages which are picked from the speaker, and they're fabulous points. There are many more which are kept aside if time permits to discuss. Azim said there is a Bhilwara and a Bangalore. I think there's a very confident assertion saying, look at the SEC A1, there's already one there existing. Why are you looking out into the towns? And that's point number 1 which Azim made. I think, Amit, you really said that the consumer moving up the value chain, there's no difference. I mean, and I think the message, the theme which came out is aspiration exists everywhere. So moving up the value chain is there in tier 2 towns. That's the second point which you made. Chadaji, you said aspiration is very high, and what can really hold back the rubber band to grow is really things like supply chain. And you really looked at retailers like us saying, are you going to create more hubs of consumption? Your message, while he spoke of real estate, but I think the real message which I picked from you is, don't deprive tier 3 towns of assortment, make the full assortment available. Though in a smaller space. I think that's a key message I picked from you. And I think the big message I picked from you, Sumit, is really saying, what are the measures you're going to do? If it's just hungry sales, top line growth, maybe that you're chasing the wrong tree. Look at things like spend, productivity, etc., etc. So I think 5 key messages. And so far, all the majority who raised the hands, the panel seems to be saying that, yes, we all agree with the majority. But I just want to take a breakout and say, at this stage, on these 5 messages, if there are any questions we'd like to take midway, and then we can come back and resume the panel if time permits. But I want to break out early this time to say, are there any questions which you would like to ask to the panel on these 5 key messages? Someone passing the mics? So it'll be of help if you just introduce yourself and then pose the question to the right person.
Hi, I'm Manan. I'm from Nestle only. So my question is, how much role is you feel government have in making this tier 2? Because only retailers and manufacturers cannot make that big with if the infrastructure is the same way what Chedasa was saying. The infrastructure is very important, and how can we influence government, or government role will be in this?
Sure. So I have a point of view, but I'll first ask the panel if anyone would like to react. I think the question is, what's the role of government? And maybe government is just a name. What's the role of infrastructure agencies, be it the municipality, panchayats, whatever, in terms of provoking consumption? I think that's a real question.
Okay, I'll take it from a perspective of infrastructure, mostly for the chilled and the frozen products. The ambient products are easy to do, relatively speaking. Yeah, of course, you still need infrastructure in terms of roads and things like that. In the chilled and the frozen business, say for example, I'm growing LTL upwards of 30-35%. But while I'm growing, I'm still struggling in the upcountry part. I have large presence in Hyderabad, in AP, about 60 stores in upcountry. In Karnataka, about 40 stores upcountry. Kerala is one long string of cities, and about 50-60 stores there. The problem that we face on an ongoing basis is that we do not get that chilled or frozen product to the last store standing, in a manner of speaking. And that's where I think a lot of effort needs to be there, both from a government perspective in terms of creating nodes or hubs where investments can go, or worst case scenario, people like us, people like our partners will actually go out and set up these hubs which Charasab was talking about. But it's a long road out in that sense. So yes, what is required is surely better infrastructure, more nodes of where we can create these hubs, where we can distribute our products better, especially the climate sensitive products or the weather sensitive products.
Chadaji, do you promise to send a truck to Bhimavaram? So any other point of view on reacting to this question? Any other POV? Yeah.
I think one thing I can add here, and it goes along because ABRL has been trying to push that through. See, cost of doing business today for modern retailers is very, very high. And the biggest component is coming out of the rentals. Now, this is a huge opportunity from a retailer perspective, or a modern trade retailer perspective, is to setting up shops over there. Now, I can only make a point or put in a suggestion. The savings which are coming in, if it could be looked at a redeployment plan and putting that behind infrastructure, then probably we are trying to get to encashing the opportunity which exists. The only one silver lining here is that we'll need to look at what we need to do, which means that we need to look at what exactly are they looking for and how do you prioritize. So the prioritization on that will also help things move a little much faster.
We would like to add two quick points here. One is the much awaited change in the tax regime that we are looking forward to in the country will definitely bring in a better cost to serve to the consumer in a smaller town. Today it's highly inefficient because of the stocks moving left and right. But the moment the new model sets in, and we've done some modeling inside our company, the projection is that it will save at least 5 to 10% of our freight cost. Therefore, the product will become that much more accessible and affordable. The second point, of course, is you talked about infrastructure. There is an absence of small lots being able to get delivered in a Bhilwara, which could be 300 kilometers away from your depot today. So we've just launched the flour in the country, and I keep getting requests from small towns of quantities which are as small as 1 ton. There is not a single vehicle available to take a 1 ton quantity at an efficient cost 300 kilometers from the depot town. So how on earth am I going to serve that town? So I think as we go along, these are the challenges we have to overcome.
So I think interesting points. I'll give three observations. I think, and I'm not commenting whether it's good or bad. We had one government which asked us to price vegetables cheap, and I think it was a very fabulous, progressive step. There's another government, I'm not naming the government deliberately, which tries to promote a shopping festival like Dubai. Yeah, and they get all the retailers together, traditional trade, general trade, and I think it's a fabulous step. If you were to look at a hurdle, there are some governments which still insist that you should shut down 1.5 days in the week. Now, I'm again not commenting good or bad, but I think those are the hurdles which modern trade faces. So the answer to your question is yes. And I think the points which are coming is really tax regime, seamless movement of goods. If you look out, there's a Californian counter, and they promote. And I wonder, Asim, to your point, what will make a government say, please push my atta to all the states in the country? It'll need some mobilization, it'll need some spend, it'll need some, for lack of word, subsidy. But I think if governments abroad can really promote a produce and say, I want to take my apples to another country, what will start the provocation which says, this state will say, let me get my produce to 25 states across the country. I think there's surely an opportunity there in the point you made.
I think there's another point. It just struck me. Recently, last Saturday itself, I'd gone to a metro store. I think cash and carry is playing a very big role in trying to get and unleash this potential which lies on the tier 2, tier 3. I must admit, this is the first time that in any store I spent 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours in one store. People who come to buy there, you can see the aspiration. And when the pricing is buy 1 for this and buy 3 for this and buy 6 for this, or a case lot at this. And interestingly, there are some places they also put up a lorry sign saying for bulk orders, right? Which means they're also trying to communicate that if there's an infrastructural issue, if you're buying something big or you're buying more, we have a solution for you for having it delivered. Right? Now, the way, not taking any name of the cash and carries here, not in the best interest, but cash and carry to us, all this while we've believed has been a competing model. As my friend talked about, then, the retailers And the channels need to coexist. And they need to complement each other rather than compete with each other. Now, here is where, if we followed a policy saying that we want additional foot soldiers and we want to go to a direct reach, so one way of looking at it is there are the company which talked about a golden eye and just had a handful of distributors and then the whole thing flows through the wholesalers. There's another part where a company takes on that, okay, I will not go the wholesale route, but I will go the direct route. There's a combination of the two. I think more than 1/3 of the sales today in the retail is coming out of the wholesale. So whether it comes out of cash and carry or retail wholesale. But coming back to like what Manan had asked for, till such time, there is something which is concrete which comes in from the government or the FDI and the investment goes behind, that is going to be a real catalyst. And like you rightly said, there is something, it's like a catapult. So गुलेल खींच के रखी हुई है हमने कि FDI आएगा, पर वो हम छोड़ नहीं रहे. So therefore, you are not able to frog jump and take a leap there. Here, where they organize, you buy, and they organize transport facility, you pay for the transport and you take it there. So these guys are growing at about, what, 90 to 100% so far as I'm concerned. And that's a huge opportunity which is getting across, and this is primarily not being driven by the larger brands like, it's not the Maggi 5 rupee and 10 rupee which is going off. For us, the growths are coming in the value add going on from here. For example, the cash and carry is a big driver for my veg atta noodles, which otherwise is not so hot.
So I think to summarize the point, if we're saying cash and carry is possibly doing what we would expect some of the governments to do in terms of getting some supply chain support as well. Okay. Questions?
I had a question actually, yes. Yeah. So my name is Nikhil. I'm from IIM Ahmedabad. This question is to Mr. Bale and Mr. Chandna. So Sahara is focused on setting up a small shop, let's say in the market, whereas Aditya Birla will be setting up a big format in the same town. How do they both coexist, and what does the customer derive from these two different formats? It's convenience and access and variety, but what else is the difference?
See, I can talk about the perspective of Sahara. Sahara is a very different format of retail. In this format, we create our own product, though in large format like Aditya Birla, it's called as private label. The reason behind creating our own product, that we wanted to control each and every aspect while developing and producing the product. We wanted to control the quality of the product, the hygiene, any kind of adulteration going in the product, and complete manufacturing process till bringing that to the consumer, eliminating all the middle points to reduce cost and to improve the best quality product available to the tier 2 cities, and same time, same product available to a metro, a tier 2, tier 3, and what I call ROUIs, rest of other urban India. So our aim is slightly different. We are trying to promote a smaller format stores, providing our own products in the market, giving the people an experience what today a metro town people may be experiencing, a tier 2 city people may also get an opportunity to use. I'll give you a very good example. A few days back, I received a call. Somebody from Bihar, he picked up my pack, and he was an address at the back. Somehow he located the number. And I got a call, a free call in my office. He says, I'm somebody calling from some town of Bihar. So I said, yeah, what can I do for you? Most of people call for some franchisee or a cocoa store. So this gentleman said, I wanted to buy your dal, but I don't know where to buy it from. So I said, okay, give me your detail. I'll send you this detail. He says, no, I'm somewhere in a remote town. And what we are doing these days, some of our friend who used to work for Sahara has got your tuar ka dal and few other dals and the rice. And fantastically, we have never tasted those dal ever in a city, because for them, the local produce of tuar dal, poor quality tuar dal was made available, whereas best quality akola dal, fully non-polished, a good quality dal was available to them. But the poor man has an aspiration to eat, has a money power to eat, but the availability was an issue. So what they formed a corporate, out of around 4 or 5 families, they put a chip together, they go to a store in Patna, buy the whole groceries and come back. So what today Sahara, when you're going to a tier 2 cities or ROUIs, rest of other urban India, we trying to create not to spend too much of money in a real estate, but at the same time providing the complete assortment, a best quality product and experience to the whole of India. That's what the motive is all about. About ABRL, I think they have a larger format, and their style of business is slightly different what Sahara Q Shop is doing today.
Let me partly try and answer your question. In the best of cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, where modern trade penetration is very high, it's max 25, 28%, which means 28% of sales in that city go through modern trade, and remaining, which is 70 odd percent, 75%, goes through general trade. If this is a situation in metros, the non-metros on the tier 2, tier 3 towns is extremely low. At all India level, varied by estimates, it is 5 to 7%. The market is very, very, very large. It can take all the current players twice over, and then twice over probably, because that's the real size of the market. So I don't think there is any question of saying that if this is going to happen and that is going to happen, how will they coexist? That's the first point. The second point is that as far as more goes, we have a philosophy of creating an assortment of product which the consumer wants. There are aspirations which we talked about, which are built through advertising. We want to cater to that genre of consumers who will then come and buy that multi-brand product. Of course, it helps our cause because the advertising pool of the brands helps people drive to multi-brand stores like us. And that's the same, actually, if you look at fashion also, there are people like Shoppers Stop and there are people like Westside, and they both coexist, and now that trade is 20 years old now. Both those companies have been there for that much time. So these things will exist and will happen, and many times over.
I'm Pradipta Kumar Sahu from Mother Dairy Safal. I would like to add to what has been told on the fresh produce space in the tier 2. See, the kind of fresh produce, the branding that we are seeing is immense. See, you name Ratnagiri Alfonso, that is going across all tier 2 cities. Like you see Washington apples, for that matter, it's coming, getting imported, or even for that matter, California Red Globe grapes. And from India, Himachal apples. You say banana from Tamil Nadu or Bangalore. So that's the aspiration, because it's coming from the sheer fact that people are looking for food safety. So food safety by Government of India, if that drive is going to happen, it will change the aspiration from the standpoint of health. Therefore, you will see major change even in the fresh produce segment. That's my comment.
Hello, I'm Madhusudan speaking. Listening to all of...
Be a little louder, please.
Yeah. Listening to all of your comments, something just struck to me. I thought I should share it. Why don't you all look at the retail formats in tier...
Sorry, you have to be a little louder.
In tier 2 or tier 3's villages or cities, why don't you look at mobile form of marketing so that the, what you call, the people over there can experience the quality which Manish was just talking about?
If I understood your question, that you wanted to say, rather than tier 2, you would say mobile stores. Omnichannel. For your information, Sahara Q Shop already has a mobile. We call it Q Mobile Services, QMS. And we have a large fleet of those going to almost, now we are penetrating almost each and every town in the country with QMS, which is called Q Mobile Services, which is completely loaded with single brand Sahara product, and retail is going from door to door, your vicinity to vicinity, where everybody can take an advantage and buy their own groceries and other products from whichever locality they would like to do.
I have a little different point of view. We've been talking about this one size fits all, metro products going to small towns and stuff like that. But I think we need to also realize the reality that 80% of the population in these towns is still not ready in terms of affordability, access, tastes, to accept the same product that's sold in a Bangalore, for that matter, right? So I think it's our responsibility as manufacturers to engineer this transition. For example, in this year, you take my company, bulk of my growth is not coming from the premium products in large towns. beginning this year, we actually had a strategy on right sizing our products. So in terms of the sizing, in terms of even the formulations, in terms of when we could not sell our premium brands at a low price, launching fighter brands, all those and a mix of all that has helped us to penetrate into smaller towns. So I think somewhere this has to be a little tailor-made. Colgate could talk about all the small packs and the revolution there. So it's not the
You're
same
giving
product.
an alternate point of view to saying let's also kind of craft.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a point.
Just to add to what Asi was saying, I guess from a manufacturer point of view, again, the first and foremost is to have the right proposition in terms of the packaging and pricing, which resonates with the shopper over there. Secondly, what we need to recognize the fact is that most of the towns, as of now, modern trade is still in nascent stage, and bulk of the business or trading is happening through the general trade or traditional trade, as we call it. So the way we are looking at it is, in coming time, of course, cash and carries and organized retail footprint will increase. But in the meanwhile, we are parallelly looking at inclusive growth, figuring out how to leverage the traditional trade, those millions of stores which are out there, to make our product available and to sell visible white kind of product in a Bhilwara. So for that point of view, the way we look at it is that in a given market, no matter how small a town is, there are certain stores which are destination store equivalent. Not all stores are equivalent over there. So it's a very heterogeneous kind of situation where certain markets are feeder markets to, say, nearby villages and towns. So while we all recognize the opportunity, but the challenge always is how to leverage that in a manner which is a business sustainable model. So for that, I guess there are a couple of things which we look at. One is the right channel mix within the general trade, targeting those destination stores, which we call something as guided distribution, reaching out to the right locations and the right set of stores, and making the products available in the format or in the packaging which makes sense for them. And so you see, this is cable TV satellite channel has helped us in a manner to make sure that the product awareness is there. However, the challenge always remains how to make sure the product is available and is visible inside the stores. And that's where this comes in, that the sharper we are in terms of our go-to-market strategy, in terms of rightly identifying those destination stores for guided distribution, that's where we'll get bang for the buck, because otherwise, the cost of distribution is something which just generally kills the whole potential.
So the time-starved Mumbai Shivnath is pushing the tier 2 tunnel out. So I think time's up. The true validation, Amitabh and MC, looking at you too, if the panel has made any significant points, is will you ever dream of a food forum in Bikaner or in Baramati? I think that's a thought for you. But this panel and the audience all says that tier 2 towns are going to be the next hubs of consumption. So will you ever imagine something like this happening in those tier 2 towns? That'll be the true validation for this panel. But in the meantime, I think fabulous chat, quite enjoyable. Thanks a lot. And I think they need a big hand for all of them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sadashiv, for moderating a fantastic panel. Great insights, nuanced arguments, and not just a straight slam and dunk. Lots of learnings there from all of us, for all of us. I would like to thank Sadashiv, who moderated this, and also the panelists, A.S. Chadda, Amit Singhal, Asim Soni, Manish Bahl, and Sumit Chanda. Thank you so much.